It's fine. It's just you do have like a what?
Welcome to Detroit in Black and White, our Friday edition. Okay, is that you got your hand over? You don't want us to see your face, Jim?
No, I'm turning up the sound so I can hear you.
That's Jim Nardoni, a legal expert, law enforcement. Yeah, listen, you know what's happening.
I wouldn't call me an expert in anything, my
And
friend.
attorney Vanessa Moss.
Good
You doing?
evening. Good evening to Detroit and Black and White viewers. Hello, Edward A., Karen Winston, Janet, overall, and good evening to everybody that's getting ready to join. Listen, if you are watching Detroit in Black and White, there's a few things that we want you to do. We want you to like or dislike, subscribe, and to subscribe is free. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Share Detroit in Black and White, the best show in these YouTube streets.
Hey, Vanessa?
Yes.
You know what we need to thank that we rarely thank is the people that are going to watch this later that don't see it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have people who watch the replay. Thank you so much to the Detroit Black and White viewers that watch the replay, including myself. Sometimes I watch the replay, especially when I'm not on the show. Hey, Deborah Harris, how you doing? No. Good to see you back.
Okay. We had some trauma down at Henry Ford Hospital today. People thought it was a mass shooting. Well, any shooting is terrible. Where an ex-husband went to his ex-wife where she worked at and pumped several rounds in her, killing her. Does that make you think now when you go into places like a hospital, you should be able to, you go there because either you visited somebody or you're sick or you're taking medical tests, etc.
Who you asking? You asking Jim or me?
I'm just throwing that out there.
This is what I'm going to say. I don't feel safe laying in my bed going to sleep, let alone walking to the hospital. You got kids dying. They at home sleeping, going to the playground, people going to the hospital. I mean, it's just crazy. And for people to say it's a crime wave, I say it's an epidemic. This is ridiculous. Do I feel safe? Listen, every time we get up and go out, we are taking a chance on maybe not coming back.
And our good friend Todd Medicine, I've seen him. He's been all over the TV all week, and once again, here he is. I don't know how he deals with stuff like that. Jim, you ex-police chief, your take on this?
Everything goes through a hospital. A hospital is probably one of the most dangerous places anywhere. If you go in an emergency room, they have crash victims, they have shooting victims, they have stabbing victims, they have abuse victims. A hospital, people talk to me after I retired and said, "You need to come work at the hospital." I said, "Are you crazy? That's more dangerous than a police department." There's people that are suffering from mental issues that become violent and show up in spend 12 hours in an emergency room. You can write a book. That's just how it is. Jill Sheridan said it can happen anywhere, anytime. She's absolutely right. But everything ends up in a hospital. Everything that happens out on the streets at some point ends up in a hospital room.
Well, get back to the attorney here on the panel. The young lady, 40 years old, got a personal protection order against him, and it was never served. Does that stop this kind of shit?
No, we're in court all the time, all day long, with people either violating or you want to modify a personal protection order. I always tell people, listen, the order is as good as the piece of paper that it's written on. Can you catch some people? Sure. But by the time we get to court on those matters, The damage has already been done. They've already violated the personal protection order. This guy decided that this is what he wanted to do. He didn't give a doggone. And you have a lot of people who have that mindset. It's really unfortunate when you say, should we feel safe going to the hospital? This is a case where this man was really pissed off that this lady divorced him and whatever else was going on in that relationship. It's one of those, I believe, if I can't be with you, ain't nobody else going to be with you. And that's really unfortunate.
But you know what? Just a few weeks ago, a husband went to his wife's place of work and shot her up, didn't kill her, because he found out that the 3 kids he thought they shared was not his kids. And people online was like saying, "Oh, he was right. I don't blame him for being mad and stuff." So on one hand, we praise folks like that. On the other hand, we shocked. Can't have it both ways.
So in that case, let me say this. And people probably did. I didn't see what people were saying online, but I will have to say in that case, it was pretty traumatic. This guy's going to work, providing for his family every day. They got 3 kids. He married, and he find out that the 3 kids is not his, and the 3 kids is a relative of his. As a defense attorney, I doubt very seriously if that would be, did the lady die or no? She didn't die.
No, I don't think she died.
Yeah. So you got some mitigating factors that go along with that one. With this one, I don't know. This guy might have just, lost his cool. He fled. Have they found him yet?
No, he dropped the car off. Now, all hospitals going to be on lockdown. I know going into emergency, they have metal detectors, but I'm talking about as a visitor's entrance and all this other stuff. Is it going to become like the airport? They patting you down and
I don't know, because remember years ago there was a shooting. I think was it at Henry Ford Hospital, where anyway it was a big time drug dealer, and they went into the hospital and they killed him in the hospital.
But that was 1988, and Mark Karma, Maserati Rick, was shot in his bed. That's when they started doing the metal detectors, but. But
they only have it in the emergency area because every hospital that I go into, the emergency area, they have the metal detectors, but the regular hospital, when you go into the main entrance, there's no metal detectors. And you know what? I think metal detectors could be a safety measure, but like I know, like our viewers know, if somebody want to get to you, they're going to get to you. They're going to find a way to get to you. I'm worried about, listen, she's gone, but what about the people there in the hospital that saw that stuff? What about the people who live every day in the neighborhoods where people are shooting and killing?
And you know what?
Mama, and you know what? It has become so normalized. It is ridiculous.
But what was lacking, and I watched several of the newscasts, and the way they reported it, they never talked to any administrator at Henry Ford. There was no, unless somebody saw it, official statement coming from hospital officials and stuff. It was just like chaos.
No, I would say again, as I said in the opening of the show, you say it's like chaos. We got a problem here. The crime, it's not a crime wave. I say it's a crime epidemic. And people have become so numb to this is crazy. And when you talk about hospital administrators, I'm going to ask this question. Not only where's the mayor, you did at least see the city council woman, mayoral candidate standing next to the police chief last week. You haven't seen the mayor. You haven't seen leadership for all these leaders. NAACP and these groups, where are they? Where are they?
They standing with Duggan for independence.
People in the neighborhood concerned about our community. Where are they?
Can we talk to some of our colleagues for just a second when you're ready, Vanessa?
Sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jim.
Derek Henry said the kids ain't mine. I'm mad. I get that. I mean, Deborah Harris says trauma, and we're living in the last of the last days, I believe. So I trust in the Lord for a home in heaven when it comes. Karen Winston says that Henry Ford does have signs prohibiting firearms. Yeah, another gun-free zone. You Don't Like My Music has a different take than you, Vanessa. We're glad to see you tonight. You don't like my music. You guys should look into the massive drug smuggling going on in Fort Bragg. I'm unaware of that. That wasn't the point I was looking at. Here it is. I'm sorry. It's an earlier statement by our colleague. You Don't Like My Music. So while crime has declined for the last 30 years, excuse my old eyes, media coverage of crime has increased. So when you call it an epidemic, You Don't Like My Music, I think is trying to say that crime is declining. However, it's in the news more. So what's your take on that, Vanessa?
I disagree with him. I don't think that the crime has done. Listen, when the population shrink, of course, the numbers are going to look different. But every day, I mean, we have the police chief on the news almost every day talking about somebody was shot or killed. So no, crime
Just this morning.
It has not. If you believe what they say, okay, fine. I'm not gonna. I don't believe what they say. I believe what I see.
Somebody just killed somebody right by Henry Ford Hospital this morning. Shot 2 people, 1 died. Right down the street from the hospital.
Yes.
So I'm telling you, there's primary, there's past primary. None of these people talked about a crime plan. How are we gonna attack the crime that's running rampant in the city? It's like all I hear is affordable housing. That's all I hear. Or I did this or I did that. But what about these kids keep falling by the wayside? And you turn on the news, 2 people shot here, 4 people shot there. You can't even go to a wake where they shooting up the wake. You know, people.
Exactly.
It's like
exactly.
Exactly.
We have one of the viewers that says they believe that you should get the judge who denied them personal protection orders. She had a personal protection order, from what I understand, but it was never served. That's what I understand. I don't believe that the PPO was denied. And if it was in Wayne County, I'm gonna tell you how it works. Usually, you can get a personal protection order ex parte. What does that mean? Without a hearing. Once you served with it, you have 14 days to say, hey, I want to modify it or I want to terminate it. If you don't, that personal protection order goes into effect for a year. So you have to be served. United States Constitution says you have to have what? You have to have notice. So you have to have notice that you have a personal protection order, and you have to have the opportunity to what? Be heard. The opportunity to be heard, but he was never served with it.
But what they would have done, he was determined the shooter and killer. But Willis said, bring in the National Guard. That National Guard is not crime fighters. They don't fight crime.
And
the National Guard to war.
And I was just reading an article about Isaiah McKinnon made a point, I guess, in the Free Press. I'm sorry, Adolf, I didn't mean to.
Go ahead.
Interrupt. Willis Martin says, my lion eyes say violence is out of hand, and You Don't Like My Music says is crime up or down. Well, here's what our co-host, Alan Langle, was talking about, I believe it was last Saturday, how a lot of the news agencies refused to cover some of these crimes.
Right.
And I don't know if that's true or not, but it appears that it could be the case.
Well, it is. There's a trial going on in Alabama where this black guy, serial killer, killed 9 people in one town, and it barely gets mentioned. Nobody talks about it. The media, people saying, where's the media? Where's the coverage? Where people falling by the wayside, and it's never reported in the media that we got a serial killer out there. So you got a lot of times the media and just ignore certain crimes in certain areas. They said, just boom, just let it be. Just let it be.
So are we going to, well, let's go to a break because it's 8:45 and then I want to go to some of these comments.
Absolutely.
Homeownership opportunities are rising in the city of Detroit, and there's a house out there that's right for you and your family. You don't even have to worry about credit or getting a loan. You can win a house for as little as $1,000 and pay for the renovation cost as you go. It all starts at buildingdetroit.org and the Detroit Land Bank Authority. Our auction and Own It Now programs offer a variety of houses and neighborhoods all over the city of Detroit. These homes are in desperate need of repair and new ownership. You can begin by going to our interactive map and detailed property listings to find the right fit for you. It won't be easy, and renovation costs are not cheap, but our compliance team is there every step of the way. We will help you track your progress and connect you with local discounts to save you more money. We have already sold more than 15,000 homes in the city of Detroit, and our inventory is shrinking fast, so you don't want to miss out on this wonderful opportunity. Start your home buying journey today by visiting buildingdetroit.org. Homeowners.
Well, we're back, and go ahead and read the comments.
Okay, on purpose said affordable housing, laugh out loud. Deborah Harris says it's sad. Pima Cotton says there's no oversight on none of the public administrators. Phone records need to be made formal after these incidents. G Money Hollywood, good evening. The people who witness these brutal crimes are most likely traumatized for the rest of their lives. Now they have to be a patient of psychological therapy and medicine. It's a disturbing issue. On purpose says a piece of paper is a false sense of security. Stephanie Jackson, who's a frequent viewer, says, good evening. Willis Martin says, children of the corn. And Mr. 1213 says, he says he's wondering if Detroit has a serial killer on the loose with all of these random shootings on the freeway. And like this morning on the street, Kenneth Reed said, good evening, Adolph and team. My wife was working at Henry Ford Hospital, Maine this morning. When the shooting occurred, he went down there and he couldn't reach her by phone. He was really scared, but she's okay. Stephanie Jackson says violence daily. Ministering mayoral candidate silent. Not even a day of prayer from the pulpits. Good evening, good people. Salute by Joe Cool. Now I want to address something that I think it was Mr. G Money Hollywood. I absolutely agreed with him when you talk about lives being traumatized, and we're not just talking about the people who work in the hospital, the people who are there in the hospital because they're sick. Can you imagine how afraid they are? But what about these people in the neighborhoods where family members have been shot and killed, or people on the freeway? I mean, and think about how we as taxpayers are paying for this, because you got to have the police, you got to have the EMS, sometimes you got to have the fire department, and if it's somebody's dead, you talk about the coroner, then you talk about the prosecutor's office. All of this is paid for by taxpayer dollars. How much money are we spending?
Money we don't have.
Not addressing it.
Money we don't have. It's a health hazard that we're dealing with, and we don't want to accept it. And our leadership has failed the city. And people say, what's your solution? Well, I'm not elected to be a leader. All I can do is be a resident, and if I see something, report it, etc. But no statement from the mayor's office. But because you see them every other day talking about we got a recreation center open, or I got 200 people behind me supporting me. I'm fighting the Democratic Party. They declared war on me. We hear all that bullshit, but we haven't heard anything on how do we address this rash of violence. And if he was elected governor, what would he do to assist the new mayor and trying to deal with it. Obviously, him as the 12 years as mayor hasn't been able to put a handle on what's happening now. It done exploded. It's out of control.
It's as I say, and I'm sticking with that. I call it an epidemic. Listen, I don't know how anyone can stand, and I wasn't here on Wednesday, but there was a press conference where the mayor said that he was endorsing the city council president. Okay, fine, good and dandy. But for me, this is not a celebratory season for us. Okay. This is a very serious and sad season. And so I'm sitting here thinking, but what are you saying about what's going on here? And as you said, Adolph, if he becomes the governor of the state of Michigan, what is that going to look like? Because what you're trying to do, what we see is politicians selling us that Detroit has come back, is much better. See these shiny new buildings, look at our beautiful toys, basically. But when you lift the covers or when you lift the carpet, you see all the mess up under.
It's like bed bugs. You know,
Absolutely.
you can see a nice bed, and you pull back the sheets, and there they are running around biting on folks.
I think we should go back to Kenneth for just a second to start with her. We're glad your wife is safe. I have a relative that also works at Henry Ford Hospital. But here's the thing. The trauma that Kenneth had, worrying and thinking about his wife for hours, what everybody else went through besides the people that were in that situation, right?
Right.
I think we forget to recognize that Kenneth had a pretty tough day today, and we're sorry for that, Kenneth. We're glad your wife's good.
And you know what? And then when you get frantic, and you get spouses and kids coming down to a crime scene, you know, and you got the police saying they holding you back and all this other stuff, and temperatures get out of control. It's a lot happening. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of stress.
Yes.
And I see why EMS sometimes don't want to make certain calls without a police escort, because you know family members go irate, say, "Oh, you waited 2 hours or 5 hours or whatever." It might be 5 minutes before somebody show up, but to them it's a lifetime, you know. And
that's
people,
exactly right.
Yeah, it's like it's a mess, and I don't envy none of these folks that's on the front line that got to deal with this trauma. Here you are at the hospital, and they calling you at where you work at. Now you man, it's an emergency. 911. Who do you call? You under attack. So who do you call?
Right. Karen Winston says her daughter is a 911 supervisor, and she immediately called Karen because she goes to Henry Ford Hospital for her prescriptions and her healthcare services. She had an appointment yesterday. She's glad she wasn't there today. She's glad it wasn't today. G Money says, Vanessa, you are right. Our society overall is sick and mental case. Most people are traumatized and suffer from direct or indirect issues that quietly or actively affect our lives. It's sad. It's very sad. Kenneth says, thank you very much. He says he stuck around for the rest of her shift. On Purpose says, has Hennessy sales skyrocketed? I think he's getting at, I guess the sale of alcohol, has that skyrocketed? I have no idea.
Well, do we need armed guards now? More, because we know we got security in these hospitals, and some of these people that securities, they not really law enforcement folks. They just, you know, rent a guards. You know, you got them out there for show. They don't.
I understand that point, but a Buffalo police officer lost his life in that mass shooting. He was an off-duty police officer. I think in New York this last week,
Yes.
one of those people protecting that building was an off-duty police officer. So, you know, sometimes they're unskilled, but sometimes they're real police officers that lose their life in a situation like this.
So should is there any law in Detroit or ordinance that prohibits police officers to work second jobs in a uniform?
You know, it wouldn't be a law, it'd be a police department policy.
Right.
And most of those departments will allow it. Atlanta, Georgia, I think a police officer was recently killed working a security job. But it's a policy, and typically the police agency lets you do it as long as you let them know what you're doing and how you're doing. A lot of departments like Atlanta, they were police department, or they did. I don't know if it's still true, but back when I lived in Atlanta, you would see Atlanta police officers everywhere because of their rate of pay was so low. They took jobs and they could wear their PD uniform in secondary roles, secondary jobs.
So Stephanie Jackson hit on a point. Co-host Stephanie Jackson, she says relocation is definitely an option where law enforcement has no answer to the high rate of crime. That's what we've seen before. We've seen people move out of the city because of, listen, I don't want my kids living in a crime-ridden city. I'm moving the heck out of here. Or I'm moving my seasoned mother or father.
Well, it's following them wherever they go.
I don't disagree, but she's made that point.
Well, I'd like to make a point about that if I could.
Go ahead,
that I met early in my police career, or sometime in my police career, that had left Detroit to go to Sterling Heights, and he was murdered within about 2 or 3 weeks of leaving a few months, I think, of leaving Detroit. He was in a shooting. He was shot in a shopping mall parking lot. His name was Sawyer. His last name was Sawyer. So we can run from crime, but it could happen in Taylor or Trenton or Macomb County, Troy. You could be walking out of that mall up there.
Well, we just your old hometown, where the guy shot and killed his brother, shot his sister. A family squabble in Taylor, where he was shooting up the whole family.
The whole neighborhood.
These people are in their 60s and 70s. Just went off an argument. So.
I don't disagree with you, Stephanie, but
right. I was just getting ready to say
I don't disagree with your position. It's right. More likely maybe in Detroit, but I don't.
So listen, we have to, we can't, look in the pie in the sky. When you're talking about poverty, when you're talking about illiteracy, when you're talking about no home ownership, when you're talking about neighborhoods where there's a food desert, you're going to have a high rate of crime. That's the reality. And that is something that the people are talking about in this mayoral election. People are sick and tired of what's going on. So you can't just say, hey, Karen says we should have a gun ban. One, people are not going to go for that. But even with a gun ban, even if in your ideal world, Karen, if we had a gun ban, it still is not going to fix a problem.
Criminals have all the guns if you have a gun ban.
I'm sorry?
The criminals have all the guns if you have all the gun bans. People going to have their guns. This is the way the country was founded. What they say, guns don't kill people. People kill folks. They take a gun and listen.
So, Mr.
You can ban whatever you want to ban. You can you make it mandatory to use seatbelts, but some people still refuse to use seatbelts. People just gonna do what they gonna do.
And I think it was on purpose earlier. Forgive me if I'm wrong. That was talking about PPOs. I'm looking for it now, but he's absolutely right. No papers ever stopped somebody from committing a criminal act.
I said you can order is as good as the piece of paper that it's written on. It doesn't matter if you the court speaks to people through his orders. But if the people don't want to follow the order, they don't. And in this case, he didn't even have an order. She had a personal protection order, but he had never been served. So guess what? That order wasn't even effective. But even if it was, this guy intended to do this. And I'm not trying to minimize her death, but every other day, if we were on the show on Wednesday, somebody was shot and killed on Wednesday. Somebody driving down the freeway, somebody in their house, somebody in the corner. If we did the show on Saturday, after that, or the day before that, people were shooting at a repast. It's all the doggone time. And for people to be sitting up there cheesing, doing these press conferences, I think it is ridiculous and it's offensive. And I'm asking, not just where is the mayor, where are the leaders here in the city of Detroit? I'm calling out the NAACP. I don't have anything against the leader of the Detroit NAACP, but where are you? Because guess what? And I don't have a problem with the ministers, but y'all don't have a problem with standing on the right, the left, and the back of the mayor who's saying that he's running for a governor. Where are you talking about this gun violence in these neighborhoods where your churches stand? Where are you?
Where are you? Well, they hiding behind a rock. Jim, look like you want to say something.
Well, I just want to, they're waiting on their bag of money. A lot of them are. A lot of these people all over this community and other communities are waiting for their bag of money. They don't have time to worry about violence. They're worrying about what they're getting. That's just
are you calling them preacher pimps?
I didn't say that. I'm just making a generalization about people in the political process, whether they're ministers, whether they're consultants, whether they're whatever they may be. They're waiting on their bag of money. And their bag of money is more important to them than protecting the young people and the citizens of the community. And that's
I just thought.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Adolph.
No, what I'm gonna say, you would think that he puts Todd Bedison is out there, our police chief. I mean, he's very visible.
Thanks, David.
The man is the man, a hell of a chief. But it's more than just him. He answers to somebody, and that somebody has been absent, has been invisible, has not said a word, has not issued a statement, has not said, you know what? Listen, what's happening at Henry Ford, is it safe, etc. We gotta call a summit. Gotta call the leaders, or call the block club presidents. Call everybody. It's a call to arms.
Thank you, Edward.
Call corporate leadership.
I'm sorry, Edward said it best.
Yes.
Laws are for honest people. Laws are for law-abiding people. People that are going to go get arrested and they have a job at wherever, General Motors, they're not going to carry a gun without a license because they can't afford to lose their job. Those are the people that obey laws. People that don't have jobs and have poverty, they don't worry about the laws. The law is a piece of paper. Any law that I've never seen a law prevent anybody from committing a crime if they were intent on doing it. Not one time.
Jim, I can't get rid of this cough. You made me laugh when you said what you said. So I can't get together. And I know that I got loud and animated, but I really am disappointed in the leaders in this community. The mayor gave money to these different groups, organizations that is supposed to work with the police department to help make sure that these neighborhoods are safe. Where are they? Where are they? Where are all these people? Where are they? But yet you can get there, get up, stand up and say, hey, I'm supporting this person because they're running for this office. They're a fine individual. And I want you to follow my lead because I'm supporting this individual, whoever it is. I don't care who it is. Because I'm doing it, I want you to do it. Well, what about the families here? What about the senior citizens that was down in Sheridan? It's not just young people that's carrying these guns and doing whatever. What about those senior citizens down the street at the Sheridan
He
apartment.
shot up
weeks ago.
he shot up the building.
It's every day. And so when you have you don't like my music saying that the media doesn't report it, and when Alan say he doesn't, they don't report it like they used to. Well, something has changed in the last month. You know what? Social media reports it, because I guarantee you, and I stay on social media, Facebook, and one of our regular guests, Mark DeAndre, he could tell you every day about who got shot, where, when, how, every single day. And we have radio silence.
Why the police
full of ads about somebody vote for somebody? I'm sick of it.
Why can't we solve a lot of these shootings if everybody knows who's doing what? Let's Jim, why don't we read some more of these comments?
Pima Cotton says you can't shoot up a hospital. Apparently you can. Somebody shot up Grady Memorial in Atlanta, and now they're shooting up Henry Ford. So that's another argument for gun-free zones. Why are the shootings always happening in gun-free zones? 126 shell casings from that repass shootout. People's homes were hit. Pima, that's international offense. Those loudmouths, paid community activists, shaking his head on purpose. Karen Winston says, truth, good guys finish last. Joe Cool, I'm not saying that we citizens need mass surveillance, but why wasn't it known that there was an order of protection against the murderer? That's a great question. But the bigger question, Joe Cool, is how come she wasn't protected? It sounds like there was a series of events. This guy was a serial stalker. Before he committed murder, he'd committed other crimes and apparently wasn't held accountable for those crimes.
Well, he was a convicted arsonist. He had several run-ins, but he's one of those folks that he won't let go. It can't let it go. She divorced him, want to move on with her life, and he can't let it go. It's like his whole life. If he can't have her, what's that old saying? Nobody can have her.
That's what I said. I said he had the attitude that if I can't have you, then nobody's gonna have you. So here we go.
And Iris Bracy Ahmed says Black people are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder since slavery. Our government is being run by a president who doesn't care about Black people. We are all stressed out and suffering from high prices at grocery stores, high rent, and utilities. The politicians who created this mess aren't doing anything to make our lives easier. The Democrats and the Republicans can correct this mess, but they aren't doing anything for us. And Iris, I'm going to go on. We're talking about the election. I'm sorry. But my question to everybody out here that's participating is, what do you expect different in Detroit after this election? What do we think is going to change?
Nothing's going to get worse. It get worse. The bills are due, and we don't have any leverage to take care of the crisis that looms ahead, because, and I'll throw it to you, Vanessa, that Mike Duggan left the cupboard bare. He left it bare.
Well,
and he's gone. Him and his band of locusts. They go from crop to crop. They eat up all the crops and they leave. And they undone it. The prosecutor's office, DMC, Wayne County government, now the city government, and now they're making their way up I-96 towards Lansing. Just another feast for his gang. They've been living large.
So we have viewers who thinks that the Republicans and the Democrats can do it, and we're always looking for other people to address our problems. What are we going to do? What are we going to do as people? One, we don't help old people that we put in office accountable. We don't do that. We're not taking back our neighborhoods. We're not taking back our schools. You know how you do that? It's that you demand. You make demands and you have expectations for these people to deliver. And if they don't, you out of here. You demand that you have a safe neighborhood. You demand that. You got to be brave. You can't be scared. But if we continue to look for these people to solve our problems, listen, it's not going to happen. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. Black folk been waiting 5 billion years for 40 acres and a mule. You ain't going to get it. So get up and do what you need to do. These people sit up here and complain about, we don't have this, we can't do this. Half of these people, over half of the people, don't even participate in the voting, and making them, and that is very powerful. That's a powerful voice. They don't even exercise their voice
because they don't see.
Why would you expect for something to be different when you are doing nothing different?
Because they don't think, and they don't think that it is worth their while. Like I say before, Social Security decide the elections. Social media don't. These young folks checked out, and they look at it and said, well, you know what? That's the corrupt. The system is corrupt. You know, people making money on the side, and you look at DC, you look at Lansing, you look at the lobbyists, you look at what people are doing. You know, people run for office not for public service these days. They run. It's a job. It's a stepping stone somewhere. I need a job, so they run. This is what they run. No experience, or if I get lucky, get elected. That's been my only job, of getting elected to office.
Stephanie Jackson says Black lives don't matter when Black folks are the killers. No protest. That's interesting. But when you live in a Black community, you're going to have Black crime. I mean, that just goes with the reason. If you were living in a white community and you white, the more likely is going to be white people that's committing the crimes. I mean, that's the way it goes. But I do understand the comment about Black lives, you know, and no protest. Again, where are the leaders?
Well, they are stepped up in their offices somewhere, planning. They're running.
But you know what they do is, and you know this to be true, Adolph, and you as well, Jim. They sit up here and they watch Detroit in black and white. You know how I know? Because I hear it repeated out in the streets. And then you'll get a phone call. Somebody said, you said this on the show. Instead of looking at the show, why don't you do what you said that you were charged to do? Why don't you do what you say that you care about the community? Why don't you do something?
Yeah, well, we're gonna let's take a quick break, come back and continue our conversation. Detroit in black and white with Vanessa Moss, attorney Vanessa Moss, and Jim Nardoni.
Nearly 30,000 vacant lots all over the city of Detroit are for sale right now. That's right, nearly 30,000 vacant lots are available now, starting at just $100. The lot next to your house or the lot down the street. Make it yours today in just a few simple clicks. Find out if it is available by visiting buildingdetroit.org. At the Detroit Land Bank Authority, side lots are just $100 and neighborhood lots sell for $250. You can apply and pay online today by visiting buildingdetroit.org. And if you don't see the lot you're looking for, call our offices. Our phone number is 313-974-6869. Again, that is 313-974-6869.
Well, welcome back to Detroit in black and white. I tell you, it's been one of those days today. Vanessa, the solution to any of this?
Well, I think that one of the things that we have to do is our voice have to be heard, and we have to make sure that those people that have a stake in the community, that they are held accountable. Listen, it's not a an easy fix, but it can be fixed because you have communities where the crime rate is low, but those communities are thriving. You have a great job force, you have communities with businesses, you have a great education system. There's some poverty in those areas, but not a great amount of poverty. Those are the things that we have to fix. That is what we have to fix. Where people can feel happy about where they live, proud about where they live, feel good about the fact that they don't have to drive 5 million miles to go to the grocery store. Those are the things that we have to do in order to fix it. It's not going to happen overnight, but things can be done. One of our viewers were talking about some of the things that they've done in terms of spot shooter and reading license plates, and that's something that the license plates readers and stuff like that. Yeah, but the mindset has to change, and you can't feel good if you're looking at a mound of dirt. You can't feel good if you can only go to the gas station to buy your food. You can't feel good if you're sending your kid to the school and they're in the 8th grade and they're reading on the 2nd grade level. You can't feel good about the community that you live in. You can't feel good about that if there's no jobs, if there's no career path. Those are the things that we have to do, and we have to stop paying these people, because a lot of these people make a whole lot of money. They do a whole lot of talking and they make a whole lot of money, but they're not giving it back to the community. And that is a problem. I have a huge problem with a lot of these people.
And you look right down on Woodward, and you look at the superintendent of schools who make almost $500,000 a year in a shrinking district where he has no confidence in the district because he sent his kids other schools in another district. How do you tell somebody, oh, to come to the DPS, and when you don't even use DPS?
You know how he does that? Somebody did an interview on one of these major news channels. Somebody did an interview with one of the mayoral candidates and praised the superintendent. I said, why are you, I'm to myself, I said, why are you selling a lie? Why are you selling a lie?
Because we have had all the contenders on the show. And when you ask the question, people sidestep the question. They don't want to answer. They don't want to say that I'll use the mayor's office to make changes, force changes with the school system, because to make the city better, you gotta have some good schools to attract good families.
Did you know that the city charter says that the mayor, along with the city council, is supposed to work with the Detroit?
They not reading no city charter. Okay. They care less about what the city charter says. We got an ethics commission that they what do? They rubber stamp everything. When the last time they made an important decision where you got folks doing all kind of stuff in the city, and nobody calls them to the carpet, because you got folks that's silent. You got the leaders. The buck stops at the 11th floor, and the 11th floor has checked out. He's checked out. He's running for something else.
Well, I'm not just going to hold him accountable. I'm sorry. I have a problem with just holding him accountable. We got people that support him.
He's the leader.
I'm sorry. I'm not. And at least the city council president, she was standing right next to the chief of police the other day.
But the buck stops
right there.
The buck stops at his desk. That's where the buck stops. He's the leader. She's the head of city council. And she unhooked her train up to his. So listen, she's just as responsible as anybody else. That whole city council is responsible, just like anybody else. We got state reps. Name your state reps. Name your county commissioners that represent your part of the city. You can't.
That is my point.
I can do
Where
that, but I don't
are
want
the
to.
leaders? Where are they?
Well, you can. I can. But, I'm talking about the average person. They don't know what the county commissioner does. Some of them don't even know what the city council people do.
Can we get back to our colleagues over here? Because we have
Go
a lot
ahead.
of good. Do you want to, Vanessa, can you read
Yeah,
them? Or do you want to
I'll
start
get
at the
some of
bottom
it.
and we'll work our way up?
Okay, I'll start the bottom and work my way
Now,
up. Okay, let me go all the way to the bottom. Okay. Pima Cotton says they ignore your communication. I'd rather be back in Minnesota, honestly. Um, Joe Cool, that was from Pima Cotton. Joe Cool said facts. You don't like my music. Says crime is down nationwide. Please name one big city where crime is increasing. G Money Hollywood says the average person is like a church Christian, a docile human being that allow false preachers to tell them how to think and what to do that is leading them to hell. People have to take ownership themselves.
I like that guy. He's always right on target.
Amen.
I think it's a guy. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said
Where's
that.
Bishop?
Amen.
Where's Bishop Bullwinkle when we need him?
If right. You don't like my music. Made another comment. He said, if more police and prisons meant safer communities, the U.S. would be the safest country ever. Isn't it? Iris Bracy Ahmad says, all of our major cities are experiencing an increase in crime. Sending the troops into the cities will not help the high crime rate. Wino's World say, hey, auntie. Hey, nephew. Detroit on purpose. I know he said laugh out loud, Vanessa. I don't know what he was talking about, but he also says Detroit has just become too neglected and there is no money or will to fix it. Plus, AI doesn't need human beings. Stephanie Jackson said paid community patrols combined with police. Joe Cool, the major problem in America is capitalism. That's in his opinion. Mr. 123 says thriving communities have different types of crimes, such as domestic violence and the such. On purpose says he contends that most of Detroit will become a big park landscape. Nothing will change in Detroit after the upcoming election for mayor. The only thing that Duggan did was build expensive housing and apartments for the upper middle class and the wealthy. The neighborhoods are still a mess. The crime rate is high because our youth are unemployed and poorly educated. Most of them are living in poverty. That was by Iris Bracy Ahmad. Thank you so much. Karen Winston says, we all should be mad about this crime. I know that I'm both mad and scared. Just random or anger-driven crime.
I hate that. I hate that she says that, but I understand exactly.
I feel her. Joe Cool says there are organizations that are committed to violence interruption in the city of Detroit and nationally. We need more community groups like New Era Detroit, plus everyone who lives in a community needs to play a role. Stop looking for someone to be your leader. Take the torch and become a leader yourself. Amen. Dominique Richmond says, oh man, I missed 45 minutes. You can watch the replay and you can hit that like, subscribe button and tell all of your friends about the greatest show on what? These YouTube streets. And subscription and subscribing is free. Thank you so much, Dominique, for joining us. Just watch the replay. Gio Sheridan says, Adolf, plenty of politicians, too few statesmen. Amen, Jill Sheridan. Kenneth Reed says the Livonia Mafia has ate well for nearly 4 decades now. That's why Chris and I call Duggan Stepping Stone Mike. On purpose. You're right, Adolf. Young people do not have any confidence in this system. That is so very true. I have a son that will be considered young and he has no confidence. Angela Beatty says, good evening. Jill Sheridan says, tell them, Vanessa. And as Karen was the one who talked about cameras, license plate readers, shot spotters, are more crimes being committed, solved. Is her. So.
Well, I tell you, we can talk all day, all night on this. All I know is back in 1984, when there was a rash of rapes of schoolgirls going to class early in the morning.
Yep.
That Coleman Young called in everybody, corporate leaders, block club folks, organizations. They came out in mass and one day summit, and listen, it made a difference. Same way with Devil's Night. It took a while. It took several years to get it under control, but they got it under control because there was a joint effort by everybody in the city, outside the city, had the resources, and they put the spotlight on that issue. Why can't we do that today?
I agree with you, Adolph. I'm saying, when I say where are the leaders, I'm talking about those people who go and ask for these tax breaks to build these nice, shiny buildings. These people who believe that they're going to be bringing business here in the city of Detroit. I would think that you would want to, you have a stake in the outcome. I would think that you would be concerned about the crime epidemic here in the city of Detroit. When I'm talking about leaders, I'm talking about every last one of them. I'm not just talking about the mayor of the city of Detroit. I'm talking about every single last one of them. You don't have a problem asking us for our money. You don't have a problem asking for, as you call it, corporate welfare. But radio silence about this.
Crystal Rice Jenkins, she remembers that she was a kid for Devil's Night and that rapist. I think she needs doing some surveillance, doing some community activism. Thank you for that. You don't like my music? He asked me about, I think it's Michael Fanone, the former Capitol Police officer. I'm familiar. I saw some of his testimony, but I have not seen his podcast. I'd like to do that, but I want to go back to one more thing, if I could, just for 1 minute.
Okay, you get go ahead.
Is this my final? I'll use this as my final answer. I don't want to be a millionaire. Whatever.
Your final thought.
MR12, Mr. 1213 talked about domestic violence, and I think, in my experience, which is really fascinating, is domestic violence is cultural, and it's in certain neighborhoods and certain ethnic groups, and you can almost, I guess, follow a path on why families end up with domestic violence. They're usually associated with it because they grew up in it, and it's very sad because it takes a lot of action, a lot of work to break that cycle. Usually grandpa beat up grandma and dad beat up mom, and now you're beating up your wife, and that's or your husband in some cases. And that's really unfortunate, but there's a pattern, and it's learned behavior, and it's cultural. That's all I have. Thank you. And one more thing, if I could. I really appreciate all the comments tonight. They were really good. They made the show. It's their show as much as it's our show, and I think the contributors to the show did an excellent job tonight.
Good. Go ahead, Vanessa.
Listen, I want to give a shout out to Iris Bracy Ahmad, who has been really active making comments tonight. This is her first time watching our show. So you know what we're going to ask you to do, Iris. And we're asking the rest of you guys to do what? Tell your people about the greatest show on what? These YouTube streets. You can catch us on all social media platforms. We want you to hit that like and subscribe button to subscribe. It is free. You can catch us every Wednesday evening, every Friday evening, 8:30 to 9:30, every Saturday mornings from 10 to 11. And tomorrow I won't be here, but I will be here. I'll be at Mac Alive tomorrow. So
thank you, Crystal. We appreciate that. There are exceptions to every rule, and I appreciate that.
Well, we'll be back tomorrow at 10 at the Historical Guardian Building. This is Adolph Mongo. Thank you, Vanessa Moss, Jim Madoni, Teresa, and all our viewers. See you tomorrow.
See you. Thanks, Lady T. Love you all.